So this is the self-assessment. And the self-assessment, you can find it after every single speaking task. So for speaking task 1 and 2, I combine the self-assessment because they're pretty much similar, each one. But for task 3, task 4, task 5, task 6, they each have a separate self-assessment. Now, let me ask you, so self-assessment, let me first explain, is when you assess yourself, right? We're used to the teacher assessing us, telling us what we did well, what we didn't do well, and so on. So, but here, you are assessing yourself. Now, let me ask you, why do you think I want you to assess yourself? Any idea? Why is it a good idea for you to decide what you're doing well and what you're not doing well? Of course, eventually you want to have a teacher to give you feedback on your speaking. You definitely want to have that eventually. But this needs to be a part of your practice, is when you look at what you do yourself and you analyze yourself and you diagnose yourself. That way you become more mindful of what you're supposed to do, what you're doing wrong, and you can plan for how you should study in the future. So let's say, for example, you're having trouble with your introduction. Well, that means you need to do some more practice with the introduction practice, right? If your examples are too short, well, then that means you need to go to the example list and practice with the example list. Use this assessment as a tool to help you study. It's really, really important. Again, one thing I say constantly is that you need to be actively engaged in the learning. You need to be thinking, why am I doing this? Why is Josh making me think about this? Most of the time, we assess you, by we I mean teachers, you rely on the teachers to give you feedback. Here, you need to give yourself feedback. And when you do that, you'll become much better at knowing what the test expects from you. And you'll know how to attack each question a little bit better. Okay? And so this is going to build competency, mastery. It's going to make you a better English speaker in general, not just for the TOEFL, but in general. You'll see what you do well and what you don't do well and how to improve. Okay. So now, this is also a kind of review of what we've done before. You can see the most important things you have to keep in mind when you're answering the question. And so here, you should do this after every single time you practice a task. Every single time. Not just do it once and then forget about it. Do this constantly. Practice one example. Give yourself a self-assessment. See what you did well, see what you didn't do well, and then do it again. Do the self-assessment again. Just constantly use this as a tool in your learning. Okay. Now, there are a couple different criteria. Let me go over each one with you. And this is kind of a review of what we talked about already. First, it says, did I understand the question completely? Okay. Pretty simple, right? Did I understand the question? Did I answer it correctly? And so on. That's one thing that students sometimes miss, is that they don't answer the question properly. So make sure you do that. Okay, you know what you're being asked. And for number 2, the second question is, before I began speaking, did I formulate my own opinion? Yeah, did I think about how I feel about this? Again, the independent speaking is a opinion speaking question, right? So did you have an opinion before you started speaking? Really important, of course. And then for the third one, in your notes, did you write down 2 reasons for your opinion and at least 1 example? Remember, you want to have 2 reasons for your opinion. Try to use just 1 and 1 example, but if you have 2 reasons and 2 examples, that's fine. But just make sure you elaborate on your responses. So did you do that, right? And did you do it in time? Well, we'll get to time in a second. So number 4 is, did my first speaking sentence include a rephrasing of the question, my opinion, and my first reason? So I talked a lot about your introduction sentence and all of the things you need to include. So you want to make sure that you include all those things. You want to rephrase the question, give your opinion, and give the first reason, a specific reason for your opinion, right? And also with your introduction, did my introduction last between 10 and 15 seconds, right? So did you speak just quickly with your introduction and go into your reasons and your example or examples? And number 6, did I give at least 1 personal example? Okay, so back to examples, similar thing. Number 7, did I speak with emotion that matched the content? Did I finish the question on time? Did you speak with passion? Did you not speak like a robot, like a lot of my speakers do? Please do not speak like a robot. Be involved. Feel what you're saying. Feel what you're saying, okay? You can feel what I'm saying right now, right? When I say feel, my voice, changes. Feel, yeah, feel. When I say that, my intonation changes, right? Because I'm connected. And so you see how I did with connected? I emphasized it, right? I made it longer, connected. And I really made that N very clear. You see how the way I'm speaking, I'm emotionally connected with my words. I really understand what I'm saying and I'm really connected to it. So you want to make sure that you do that when you're speaking as well and show that, and that shows fluency, right? Being connected emotionally with the words that you're producing shows fluency, okay? Number 8, did I speak without too many pauses, vocal fillers, or repetitions? That's etto. In Japanese, it's etto. Like, right. I do it a lot. Everybody does it. You probably hear me do it a lot when I'm teaching. And I just did it, but you want to make sure that you stay away from vocal fillers. You don't want to have more than at max 5. I mean, 5 is actually too much. You really only want to have 3 at most when you're speaking for 45 seconds. I do more than that when I speak, but you should try to make sure that you reduce those as much as possible. And one way to do that is to just pause. See that? Pause, okay? And you'll be... See, I just did now that I'm talking about it, I'm noticing that I do it a lot. Make sure you try to pause, and so you speak clearer and you speak in a very comfortable way. Number 9, did I follow the structure and speak in a clear and concise manner? So pretty simple. Did you follow the structure that we talk about? Introduction, reasons, examples, and had a conclusion, and you sounded clear and logical. Number 10, what's something I did well? You could just think about that. Number 11, what's something I didn't do well? And number 12, think of a plan. How can I improve? That's the most important thing, right? Take what you learn from your mistakes and what you do well and make a plan for success in the future.